All right, let's talk about AI in the financial world. There's a lot of noise out there, right? A lot of marketing fog. Today, we're cutting right through all of it. Forget the hype. We're going to give you a real, strategic playbook for 2026 and beyond. This is about how you stop being just a renter of AI and start becoming an owner of your own intelligence.
Okay, let's kick things off with a number that should honestly make you sit up and pay attention. A 2025 MIT study found that a staggering 95% of all generative AI pilots in finance fail to ever make it into production. I mean, just let that sink in. That means 19 out of every 20 projects, all that time, all that money, just stall out. They never deliver any real value.
So you gotta ask, why? What's going on here? Is the tech not good enough? No, that's not it. The models are incredibly powerful. The real problem, and this is the crux of it, is that the entire strategy for AI adoption is being twisted and distorted by a whole new wave of marketing FUD. You know, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And guess who's pushing it? The very same cloud vendors who are selling you the tools.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll look at the AI pilot paradox. Why are things failing? Then we'll dig into the centralization collapse, the core problem. After that, we'll expose the model garden illusion that's being sold as a fix. And then we pivot to the solution. We'll lay out the sovereign AI architecture, talk about building with open standards, and finally, give you your path to ownership. Let's get into it.
So, first up, the AI pilot paradox. I mean, why is the bridge from a cool pilot project to a real in-production system just collapsing? Well, like we said, it's not the models. The real issues are way more fundamental. We're talking about huge gaps in leadership, a total mismatch between the AI architecture and how the business actually works, and frankly, some massive governance failures.
And that brings us to the next big problem, the centralization collapse. You know, for the past few years, the playbook was super simple, right? Just pipe all your data, all your questions, to one giant, all-knowing model in the cloud. Easy. Treat AI just like another utility. But that whole approach, that monolithic foundation, it's starting to crack. In fact, it's breaking under the weight of the real world.
Yeah, and this image here really captures what's happening. This crumbling bridge, that's the old API-dependent model. It's the way everyone started doing enterprise AI, and it's failing. It's collapsing under three major pressures: speed, or latency, a whole mess of regulatory issues, and frankly, economics that just don't add up anymore. Let's dig into each of those. Okay, first up, the latency wall. Look, in finance, speed is everything. It's not just a nice-to-have. A delay of, say, half a second from a cloud API might not sound like much, but in the world of trading or fraud detection, it's a lifetime. It's literally the difference between catching fraud as it happens or just writing a report about it after the money's gone. And it's not just practical, it's regulatory. New rules like DORA are coming in, and they demand operational resilience. Relying on a single outside API, that's a huge risk that regulators are now calling out. Next up, the data sovereignty crisis. The good old days of just sending data wherever you wanted, they're over. Done. We're now tangled in this global web of regulations that makes that old send everything to a central hub model, well, illegal in many cases. You've got the EU AI Act demanding traceability that these black box APIs just can't offer. You've got the huge clash between GDPR in Europe and the US Cloud Act, which puts banks in a really tough spot. And then you have countries like India and South Korea saying, nope, our citizens' data cannot leave our borders. So the whole model is legally broken.
And finally, let's talk about the money. Because even if you could ignore the risk and the regulations, you can't ignore the economics. The math is actually pretty simple. Research shows there's a clear tipping point. Once you hit about 74,000 queries a month for an application, it becomes cheaper to own the infrastructure yourself rather than paying that unpredictable variable token tax on every single API call. For anything you do at scale, the API model just becomes a tax on your success.
Okay, so the old centralized way is broken. We get it. And the cloud vendors get it too. So they've come up with this beautiful new solution for you, the model garden. It's this magical place where you can pick and choose any model you want. It sounds great, right? It sounds like freedom, but I'm telling you, it's a trap. This is just vendor lock-in version 2.0. And this right here shows you exactly how the trick works. Yeah, they make it easy to swap the model itself. That's the shiny object. But what they don't tell you is that they lock you in everywhere else, in their proprietary management tools, their billing systems, their orchestration layers. So you think you can just move a Llama model from one cloud to another? No way. You'd have to completely rebuild your security, your data pipelines, everything.
The model might be portable, but your actual application is stuck.
And again, it all comes back to the economics. Let's be really clear about the numbers here. You're paying a huge premium for this so-called convenience. For any workload you run a lot, we're talking a markup that can be more than 11 times the cost of just renting the servers and running it yourself. It completely wipes out the whole point of using open source models. So, if the old way is broken and the new garden is a trap, what do you actually do? How do you build for real ownership?
All right, let's get to the solution. And the answer isn't about finding a nicer garden to get locked into. The answer is to build your own sovereign architecture. It's not about finding one perfect model for everything. It's about a smart, strategic, three-tiered approach we call the Hybrid Distributed Intelligence Architecture, or HDIA for short.
So, what is HDIA? It's all about putting the right job in the right place. Every AI task gets assigned to the most efficient spot. Let's walk through the 3 tiers. First, you've got Tier 1, Edge Intelligence. This means running smaller but still very powerful models right on your devices, laptops, phones. This gives you incredible speed and total data privacy. Nothing leaves the device. Then there's Tier 2, your private custom models. This is your core. This is where you run models that you fine-tuned on your own data, on infrastructure you control. This is your secret sauce. And finally, Tier 3 is gated frontier access. This is your very limited, very controlled connection to those giant public models used only for things that aren't sensitive, where you just need raw creative power.
Now look at how this changes the game. This is a massive strategic shift. It's a total flip of the current model. In this world, the vast majority of your AI workload, we're talking 60 to 70%, moves completely off the cloud and onto the edge. Your most important, core intelligence, another 20 to 30%, runs in your private, sovereign environment. And those expensive, risky API calls to public models, they shrink down to maybe 5 or 10% of what you do. It's a complete inversion of how most companies are thinking about AI today.
Okay, that sounds great, but how do you actually make it all work together? How do you manage this distributed system without, you guessed it, getting locked into yet another vendor's platform? Well, this is the really clever part. The glue that holds all this together isn't some proprietary product. It's a foundation of open standards. And that's what guarantees you true freedom and portability.
The first piece of the puzzle is something called the agent-to-agent protocol, or A2A. The easiest way to think about this is like a universal translator for all your different AI agents. It lets an agent on, say, an employee's laptop securely talk to a big, complex risk model running in your private cloud. And they don't need to know anything about how the other one is built. They just communicate.
Next up, the Model Context Protocol, MCP. Now this is the real key to breaking vendor lock-in for good. I love this analogy. It's like USB-C for AI. It creates one standard plug, one universal interface that connects any model to any of your data tools. So once you have this in place, you can swap out one model for another, go from GPT-4o to your own custom model, and you don't have to rewrite a single line of code. The cost of switching models basically becomes zero. And finally, governance. How do you keep control of all this? That's where the PACE protocol comes in. It's a framework that brings together policies, advocacy, controls, and enablement. So, for example, you could have a policy that says, no personally identifiable customer data can ever leave the edge device. The technical controls would then automatically enforce that rule, maybe by anonymizing data before it's sent anywhere. It's how you build safety and compliance right into the system.
Look, this is not science fiction. This isn't some 5-year-out theory. The tech to build this, the models, the hardware, the open protocols, it all exists right now, today. So let's get practical. Let's map out an actual roadmap to get you from where you are now, a renter of AI, to becoming a true owner.
And the journey starts now. First half of 2026, you need to audit everything you're doing with AI and start sorting your projects into those 3 HDIA tiers. By the end of this year, you should be putting that open protocol foundation in place and spinning up your own private platform. Then 2027 is all about rolling out your first pilots on the edge using the new AI PCs that are coming out. And by 2028, you're there. You have a fully hybrid, sovereign system, and you're in the driver's seat, moving your workloads and taking complete control.
So here's the bottom line. We're at a fork in the road. And 2026 is the year where the path you choose really matters. The decisions that leaders in finance make right now are going to define who wins and who loses for the next decade. So the question is, which path are you on? Are you going to continue to be a renter, stuck in that endless cycle of rising costs and vendor lock-in and regulatory headaches?
Or are you going to build a real, lasting competitive advantage by owning your own intelligence? We've laid out the playbook. Now the choice is yours.